For the April meeting of the Oxford Planning Commission. Commissioners, you have the agenda before you. A couple changes to note. One, I'd like to pull off case number 3184 from the consent agenda and add it to the public hearings. Ben, can we put that right after the current number 15 and hear the two cases together? Okay. And then case numbers 3208 and 3209 have been postponed. Are there any other changes or additions? All right. If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any changes or additions to the minutes from the March meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Ben, do we have a staff report today?
Well, I just want to take a minute to introduce the commission to our newest planner, James Hirsch. James has been living in Oxford, working at the university. We had the opportunity to bring him on board, undergraduate at Ole Miss and a master's at UNC Chapel Hill. So he's been with us for now a couple of weeks. This is his first planning commission, and we're doing our best to not run him off. So please take it easy on him tonight. But make sure you take a minute, introduce yourself to James. I think you'll find yourself really impressed.
Welcome, James. I think you'll find that it's an adventure, and we hope you stick around.
Did you say choose your own adventure?
Some nights. All right. Commissioners, please note the one case for administrative approval, case number 3202A. And then I've moved the one case from the consent agenda. Is there any other comment on the consent agenda from the commission or the audience? If not, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve, subject to the amendment.
All right, motion to approve the consent agenda with the one case moved to the public hearings. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That brings us to our first public hearing of the night. That will be for case number 3210. Walker and Walker Enterprises have filed a request for variance from section 5.8.4.10 Conservation Overlay Districts for property located at 619 Van Buren Avenue. Okay.
Okay, so the applicant seeks approval for a variance from section 5.8.4.10 Conservation Overlay Districts to allow for additional bedrooms at 619 Van Buren Avenue. The subject property, the Theodore Hamlet House, is located in the South Lamar Historic District, and the applicant plans to add on to the existing house and to build a new garage. Those plans are currently under review with the Historic Preservation Commission. The application notes that the house will be used as a single-family dwelling and not as a rental property. There are 4 bedrooms currently, and the applicant would like to add 2 for a total of 6 bedrooms, which would ensure 1 bedroom for each child in the applicant's family. The neighborhood conservation overlay standards note that in our districts, like the subject property, and in SMF zoning districts, that dwelling units should be no larger than 3 bedrooms. The Historic Preservation Commission will determine if the size and massing of the new additions are appropriate in the context of the Oxford Design Guidelines. Staff finds that adding needed bedrooms for this family to be able to live in and use the house is an appropriate reason to grant a variance from the bedroom count in this instance. So staff is recommending approval of variance with the condition that the variance is for the plan as submitted with necessary revisions due to the impending Historic Preservation Commission review next week. And so the applicant's architect, J.D. Caldwell, is here if anyone has questions for him.
Thank you, Kate. Any questions from the commission? I have a question, just procedurally. So, Kate, this hasn't gone to historic preservation yet.
They've actually had 2 complimentary hearings,
Okay.
and the plans have been revised a couple times, and the public hearing will be next week.
Okay.
So I'm not anticipating any major changes based on what's been happening.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience that'd like to speak? Okay. If there's no other discussion, is there a motion on the variance?
Grant the variance with 1 staff condition.
All right. There's motion to approve the variance with the 1 condition. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I would just say that, for the record, we're approving the bedroom and nothing else about the design, and so the rest is up to historic preservation.
Yes,
All right,
thanks.
thanks. All right, that takes us to case number 3211. Walker and Walker Enterprises has filed a request for site plan approval for Patterson Place property located at Anchorage Road.
All right, subject property is a 18.86 acre parcel that stretches from Pat Patterson to Anchorage, due south of Western Hills subdivision. The applicant is proposing a 145 unit RCID of 32 detached and 94 attached units. And the site is split between suburban residential and NR, the gross majority of that being in NR. The proposed mix of units is allowed in each of the zoning districts. SR portion has 19 units, which are all 3-bedroom detached, and the neighborhood residential portion has 32 detached 3-bedrooms and 94 attached 3-bedroom units. Each of those unit types can be approved by special use, and the applicant has filed those necessary requests. They meet the density requirements, and for parking, a minimum of 401 and a maximum of 501 spaces are allowed. The applicant has split the difference right at 450. For coverage, both allow for 60%, and they are just under on both of those. Other elements, including landscaping, a little bit of tweaking is necessary with French trees along Anchorage, but other than that, everything looks good with the landscaping plan. Tree mitigation, the site was previously part of the certified tree farm that was harvested recently, and as such, those areas that were harvested do not require mitigation, and no other significant trees remain on that site. For the architecture and building materials, proposed units will have a similar style to the attached units in Southbrook. Primary facade materials will be brick and siding. Engineering has some comments related to access, water and sewer, and stormwater management, and staff recommends approval of the requested site plan for Patterson Place with the 7 conditions that are in your staff report. And the applicant's engineer is here if y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Robert. Questions from the commission? I guess I have one question for the applicant, if you could come forward, please.
Yes, I'm Shane Cardwell. I'm the civil engineer for the project. I don't have the owner with me here tonight, but I'll do my best to
Sure, I
try and
appreciate
answer your
it.
question.
It's a pretty simple question. I mean, I was just looking at it, and it's a straight in and straight out development, and I talked to Ben about connectivity with the other developments around it. And I know there's a little bit of a grade issue with the development to the north, but is there any way to add more connectivity?
We do have an easement already dedicated, the parking area that's on the far west side of the property. We are proposing that we provide some connectivity to the property to the north there.
Okay,
Really, that location and just to the east of that, where the road makes the kind of intersection right there, where the green space is at, that location, and then the extension of this parking area is really the best 2 locations to provide that connectivity
gotcha.
to the property to the north.
And that road to the north is going to extend out to the west? What is that, Kings or King Street?
It does, I think according to that platted subdivision, there is an extension that's projected to go to the west.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
What's the overall height on your building? I can't get the plans where I can see them.
To the very peak, I don't have that dimensioned on our architectural plans, but they're 2-story townhomes.
Okay. Answer my question. Thanks.
Okay. Joseph, they're consistent with the buildings that we have seen in South Grove and maybe even
Meadowcrest, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's about 27 feet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? If not, is there a motion on case number 3211 for the site plan?
I move that we approve the site plan for Patterson Place with the staff conditions, 7 staff conditions.
All right, there is a motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Thanks, sir. All right, and Ben, we can do the next two together. Case number 3184 for the special exception, and case number 3175, Calicut Lands LLC has filed a request for site plan approval for the landing at Oxford Farms for property located at 3230 Landing Lane.
So we'll take 3184 first, which is a special exception application for first floor residential as provided in section 2.6.9 suburban center. The applicant was previously approved for this special exception for first floor residential as part of the mixed use development in Oxford Farms. The applicant's proposed modifications to the plan, which was originally approved in October of 22 and then later amended in June 23. Therefore, a new special exception is required. The property is about just over 3 acres. It's located on the north side of Oxford Way. It's just east of the Stillwater development. The applicant's proposing a mixed-use development consisting of 1 3-story multifamily building and 2 3-story mixed-use buildings. Both of the mixed-use buildings have 8,000 square feet of commercial on the ground floor with 2 residential floors above. Site plan for this development is the next case, subsequent case. The applicant's looking to keep the 2 uses separate between the buildings, which would entail having residential on the ground floor. The use of ground floor residential is a special exception in this district, and the applicant believes that this will be in harmony with the buildings along Oxford Way and provide a consistent feel with the rest of the Oxford Farms development, and that the unique design of each of the respective buildings lend themselves to keep the uses coherent within the buildings. Staff is not opposed to the plan. The residential building that fronts Oxford Way will serve as a transition in density between the mixed-use buildings and the lower density residences of Stillwater development. Staff recommends approval of the requested special exception after making the finding that the first floor residential will not adversely affect the public interest, and we do have 2 conditions of approval included in here. Any questions on that?
So the original plan,
No, yeah, go ahead.
the original plan had 4 buildings, right? And 2 were going to be residential entirely, is that correct?
That's right.
And 2 were going to be commercial entirely?
right.
And they were all 2-story buildings, is that correct?
I think that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we've gone from 4 buildings to 3, and 1 is still completely residential and 2 are going to be mixed use, correct? And now 3-story. Okay.
That's right.
I just want to get that clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had the same question.
Yeah, the one residential building that's no longer here, sorry, I need to turn this just a bit. The one residential building that's no longer in the development is at the northern portion of this site plan. And it was adjacent to the detention pond, and then that was removed. And y'all might recall with the Belvita development, there was connectivity that was provided from the Belvita and Harlan near and close proximity to where that building was.
Is the detention pond there that's on that north side? Okay, it's already there?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah, so the reason that I asked to put this on the public hearing is just because the way the original case went down, we were talking about the intention of mixed-use developments, and this qualified as a mixed-use development because there were commercial buildings and there were residential buildings. And even though we approved the ground floor residential, there was effectively the same amount of commercial space among the 4 buildings that there would have been if they had all had ground level commercial. And so, my understanding is that building A has already been constructed. Is that correct? No. It has not been. Okay. Parking lot's been constructed. Okay. But the point was just to go back and revisit the fact that part of the reasoning for the special exception in the first place was that there wasn't actually a net loss of commercial in the development. And I think with the new proposal, there's a loss of commercial space. It's going down to,
But it would effectively lose 16,000 feet, 8,000 per building, because those
Yeah.
were going to be 2 floors at 8,000 each.
and now
So-
it's just 1 floor each at
Correct.
8,000. Yeah, so it's half as much commercial. That was the germane piece. Okay.
As for the site plan, do you mind if I just run
Yeah,
through that real
go
quick?
ahead.
So the site plan, again, same piece of property. The building, so building A, this is where I was hesitant in agreeing with you about the 2 stories. Because I think building 3 was amended building A was amended in 23 for it to be 3 stories. I'm gonna look at Joey to make sure that's correct. But I don't remember back in 22 when it was originally proposed if it was a 2-story building or not. I think it was, but I'm not really
Yeah.
for certain on that. And then I don't know if that was a 2-story building at the north,
At the
the
rear.
north end, but that was amended, some time ago. So, nonetheless, Building A will have 15 3-bedroom units in it. Building B, so Building B now has an additional floor on it. So 8,000 square feet of commercial on the ground floor. And then it allows for 16 1- and 2-bedroom units on the second and third floor. That's 8 on the second, 8 on the third floor, not 16 on the second, 16 on the third. And then Building C, again, the same scenario. It's 8,000 square feet, and then 1- and 2-bedroom residential units on the second and third floor. Based on the proposal that's provided, 53 parking spaces are required for the commercial portions of the development, and 103 are required for the residential. A total of 156 are needed based on code. 154 spaces are provided, including several on-street parking spaces, and the development is proposing a mix of retail and office space, which do lend itself well to sharing between business and residential components. The proposals right on in terms of lot coverage. The building height is compliant with our requirements. The architecture remains unchanged from what was previously considered, other than it does add an additional floor to it. There is a multi-use path, so it does provide for sidewalks and connectivity in the development plus in Oxford Farms. And then the proposed landscaping design it does meet all of the requirements from the Land Development Code. There is one slight modification for a lace bark elm that we're working with just to make sure that the landscaping plan's updated to reflect that. Engineering did provide comments related to access and water and sewer and stormwater management, and staff recommends approval of the site plan with the 6 listed conditions.
Thank you, Ben. Questions?
Real quick, Ben, on 3184, the site plans, page 5, it says 159 spaces are required. Of course, still 154 provided. Is it 156 or 159?
Yeah, we went through it. It's 156.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ben, do you think that it seems to me that several elements of this design go hand in hand. So naively, it seems to me that commercial space on the second floor of a dedicated commercial building might be more marketable than a commercial space on the second floor of a 3-story building with residential above. Is that reasonable?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts from the commission?
This is just a,
Could you speak into the mic?
this is just a question in general, not necessarily about this one. But we're, in several of the cases we're in tonight, and several that we've had in the past, and I'm sure several come for us, doing away with a percentage of ground floor commercial. I just wonder how looking forward 5 years down the road with large freshman classes and more people and the density coming in, are we shooting ourselves in the foot by not providing that commercial? Now, I realize it's a tough sale now. I understand that to some degree. Just a general question that I think we need to ponder as we move forward.
Well, to that, the question I had is, does the applicant have to provide some basis for requesting a special exception, or just, hey, I'd like a special exception because today's a Monday?
Well, I mean, it's within the code for them to request it at this site. And then
I understand, I understand that, but it's, I guess people are asking us to approve a special exception to eliminate the ability really to have any commercial space because they think it's a hard sell. I don't, did they provide any stats? I'm asking these questions because I'm like Harry, I've heard a lot of complaints from people too. And I understand you
Heard a
wanna
lot of complaints that there's not enough commercial.
The only thing we're approving is multifamily is the only thing that we're approving. We're not approving any type of commercial developments. I understand you're taking a big risk when you build anything, and the less risky thing to do right now is to build multifamily housing. But like Harry says, are we going to get 5 years down the road and there's no place to put a business? And I've often thought of it as kind of a chicken and egg thing. The developer doesn't want to build it unless they've got some LOIs or some commitments, but there are also a lot of people that want to start a small business, that look for space and, all they can get is an LOI that the developer may build something, an hour and year and a half out, and can't wait that long. So I don't know.
All very good questions.
It's a conceptual discussion, but
Well, and I think over the last, especially since COVID, we've seen retail market change,
right.
right?
I agree.
With online sales and, so brick and mortar for retail purposes is, it's just different now. And what does that look like going into the future? I don't know. All very, very on point questions. Everything that I think we're asking ourselves the same thing.
Well, I think Oxford Commons has been a good example of creating that residential along with the commercial. And it looks like to me it's really paying off as they broaden their, footprint. And I think the landing in Oxford Farms is a great spot. I mean, I think it's been very well done. I'm just asking we've got one or two on down the road, down into the agenda that makes sense, I think, for the exception. This one makes sense. I understand that. I'm just saying as a general rule, as Oxford continues to grow, I think we got to really consider where we go with that and how we do that. Just a question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, these are all good questions, and I think in this particular location, we've all felt that there's a lot of residential in that part of town and not a lot of commercial opportunities. I mean, even just to serve the residents that are there. So I think where I get stuck is the net reduction in commercial space when we already approved the ground floor residential in concept, but now it's coming back and reducing the amount of commercial in a place that's already scarce for commercial.
Sure. Joey Moore, JM Engineering. So, Andy, in my eyes, has taken the risk. He spent all the money on the infrastructure, put everything in, and was waiting on tenants for these commercial buildings. That's, 12, 18 months ago. And so like Ben said, we had this other residential building that was on the original site plan, that was pure residential, no commercial, and we took it out. And, you know, the guidance that I've received from this committee over the years is do not compare your case to anybody else's. But we have, in that time, we have seen other requests in higher profile areas than where we're at in Oxford Farms ask for a reduction up to 50% of the ground floor being commercial. And so we saw that happening, and Andy was like, well, if I can get these units up above here to help pay for this commercial building, then I don't have to eat it if I can't lease it. But that's what we're looking at across the board on all these projects, is that when people come to me and they're doing these takeoffs about, you know, returns and all that stuff, they're not taking commercial rent into account at all. They're just like, we're just throwing that out because who knows if we can find a tenant. And that's just, I know times change, but that's the times that we're dealing with right now. So we saw that, we said, well, we have more than 50% ground floor commercial on this project. The additional residential units will help pay for that construction. And like I said, if y'all, you know, bring some commercial, we'd love to have it. But we haven't been able to find it out there.
And I guess that's my point. Looking back, I think that has truly been the case. I think as we look forward, we've got to start considering that. And so I'm not saying that about this particular case. I'm just saying in general, I think it's going to be important because the denser we get it, the more coffee they're going to want, the more burgers they're going to want, whatever it is.
And don't get me wrong, we think it's a great spot down there. We're working with the team right now, and everything east of this road, just right across from these buildings we're talking about now, is kind of being master plan right now for a commercial center. And so we've got a meeting, I think Friday, with that group that's kind of working on that. That might take over that whole area and put some in there. But yeah, I mean, he's been paying interest on this construction loan for 12, 18 months. And he's like, well, I can't build these with the price of everything right now. I can't build these and just sit here and eat this cost right now with purely commercial on these two.
And I think I think that you and Andy are doing kind of what we envisioned is the code allows you to mitigate your risk on that commercial by building the residential above it. And that's what I hear you saying that Andy's decided to do is, you know, I'm not building in the commercial rent in my pro forma to pay my note, but, you know, it's land yap on top of whatever I sell the condos or rent them out, whatever it is. And I think that's what we're looking for.
But I think what we were considering is that if we brought this to the table today and y'all hadn't seen it before, if that 50% reduction in ground floor commercial would be granted.
I mean, it's not a 50%, it's only if you just look at the development as it is now, it's only a 33% reduction in ground floor residential, because building A is the only one that has ground floor residential, right?
Sure, so it's not a full 50% reduction.
Right, it's a 33%, but yeah, but we went from, I don't remember how many stories the northern building used to have, let's say it had
It was three.
It was three?
Both threes.
Three
Yeah.
residential,
Yeah.
so that was 6 residential to 4 commercial stories previously, and now we're going to 7 residential to 2 commercial. I mean, you know, if each building had ground floor commercial, it would be 6 to 3, which seems like a compromise that's in the code, but I mean, yeah.
So would you guys feel more comfortable if we changed the 3-story buildings down to 2, so there's only 1 floor residential up above? I don't know if that pays for anything. I mean,
No, I guess what I was saying is, it just, if building A had commercial on the ground floor,
Sure.
they'd all 3 be basically the same building, and there wouldn't be any need for a special exception.
I got you.
I guess from my point of view, I'm prepared to grant the special exception in this case. I think Calicut Lands and LLC, they've all done a great job. My point is, I think as we move forward, COVID's in the rearview mirror and things are changing quick. I mean, all you got to do is ride around and take a look.
Sure.
I think we got to be aware of it. I'm prepared to vote in favor of the special exception. I just think we need to be mindful of it moving forward.
I agree with you.
Any
On
other
the
comments?
topic of being mindful, I was struggling back and forth if this is the right time or place, but as the cases come through and keep going on, I don't know another time or better place to bring it up, but I mean, traffic flow and the ability for people to get in and out of these places is not a part of this process, I understand, but I guess for the record and for the mayor and board of aldermen to look at, please look at, is what long-term plans are being put in place to handle this. I don't think that, I travel south Lamar to go home every day, and it's I don't know the right word. I mean, we're just gridlocked, I guess is the right word. And we're gonna build a whole lot more. Is there, as the city talked about, infrastructure to handle?
We actually had a meeting last week looking at our transportation plan with John Crawley and the mayor and other folks in City Hall, looking at our transportation plan that we approved in 2019. It was a city, county, and university transportation plan. We were looking at the city portions of it and looking at updates to that plan. Looking at the priorities, the existing priorities in the plan as it is now, and do those priorities still hold true? And we've already even looked at new priorities and shifting priorities, and then also potential funding opportunities that are available right now to help us implement some, I think, low-hanging fruit solutions to some of our challenges within our existing network. How's that? That's perfect timing. It's a great question. Yeah.
And I will say that we are still, in the process of constructing the road to Belk from Oxford Farm. So that will definitely help this product and the rest of the product in Oxford Farms to try to avoid South Lamar, because my office is on South Lamar. We need to get the kids off there as soon as we can. But
Harry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Your point of looking at the future, I believe there's a suggestion there of, really ensuring that we have full commercial opportunities on the ground floor, even in mixed-use developments. There may be some exceptions that are made, but just make sure I'm understanding your point correctly, that we want to look to provide as many of those opportunities into the future.
I think it's important. I think as we get into the case, I'm not sure which one it is on Blackburn later on, where two intersecting zoning, and it makes sense to do it there. And so as a heavily trafficked artery into downtown, whether it be South Lamar, North Lamar, University Avenue, wherever it is, I think we've really got to take a look at making sure that we have plenty of commercial, so we're not continually feeding downtown, even though that's a great spot to feed to. There are other areas that you can get to and get out of. And I think it's important to think about that as we move on.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Anyone from the audience or online? All right. If not, we'll vote on these individually. Is there a motion on case number 3184 for the special exception?
I would move that we grant the special exception with the two staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. And then case number 3175 for the site plan. Is there a motion on the site plan?
I make a motion to approve the site plan subject to the staff conditions.
All right. Motion to approve with the staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
thank y'all.
Thank you. That brings us to case number 3212. Mississippi Development LLC has filed a request for a site plan approval for the Overlook property located at 1113 Jackson Avenue. Ben?
So this case actually has three special exception requests before us. We'll handle them one at a time. The property is the site of the former F&B Bank located at the intersection of Jackson Avenue and Fraternity Row. The site measures about just over 2 acres. It's zoned traditional neighborhood business. The applicant's proposing a mixed-use development, consists of 4 stories with approximately 5,300 square feet of commercial. There's 52 residential units with 107 bedrooms on upper floors. The ground floor of the building will be utilized, most of the ground floor of the building will be utilized as podium parking that will be wrapped with building materials that are consistent with the actual building architecture. The applicants are seeking 3 special exceptions. So the first one, the Land Development Code does stipulate that any building that exceeds 3 stories or 40 feet is required to recess the 4th floor 1.2 feet for each floor vertical. So if it goes up 10 feet, it needs to be 12 feet back. And and so it does provide an exemption through special exception, and the exemption was added to really address the reality of building sites and sometimes architectural forms that address the underlying philosophy of the step back requirement without a strict adherence to the step back. And the element of the code was added to limit the potential for buildings that present a looming facade on the street, and this goes back to Uncommon Oxford when it was built on such a on a 2-lane road so close to the street. The architecture of the development presents varied facade treatments along Jackson Avenue. It has recessed steel structured porches that are all open and recessed storefront for a commercial tenant, and other architectural elements that break up the building. And while the proposed facade does not step back, it does present considerable architectural variety, which breaks up the visual components into 4 discernible, individually attractive segments. And staff believes that the variety presented and the style of the design offer sufficient adherence to the intent of the step back standard, and approval is recommended with 2 noted conditions. Also, there's a special exception for first floor residential, and the Land Development Code allows for first floor residential to be requested by special exception, but in this instance, slightly different, the applicant's proposing podium parking at the ground level beneath the building, but it will be screened by the building, and so as a result, the proposal in this component of this development, the residential component will be at the first floor, thus necessitating a special exception to allow residential use on the first floor. Staff recommends approval with the 2 conditions noted. And then finally, the special exception to building height and the TMB district, it does stipulate that a maximum height allowed is 3 stories and 40 feet, unless a special exception is granted for a 4th floor, which allows a maximum of 50 feet in height. And the applicant's proposing a 4-story building at this location. And Jackson Avenue has a wide right-of-way. The building is positioned approximately 58 feet from the property line and is sufficiently set back to not loom over pedestrians. 4-story building at this location is supported by staff. And we have 2 conditions with this recommendation of approval. Sorry, I noticed the numbering on the formatting continued. It just needs to be 1 and 2. Applicants here, the design team's here. They can answer any questions that you might have, unless you have any for me.
Thanks, Ben. You said there were only 2 conditions?
On that last one,
Yeah.
we've got approvals for the plan as submitted, and
Yeah, I'm just looking, there's 7 conditions in my packet.
are you looking at the special exception or the site plan?
Well, so I'm looking at the site plan, but are they
I was looking at the special exception request.
bundled here? I don't see them.
I'm sorry, but this is a technology thing, so if you can't open the
Okay.
same staff report digitally, you can't have 2 separate staff reports
Okay.
open.
That's fine. No worries. All right, questions for Ben or for the applicant?
So I thought that there was, I thought I saw that.
Sorry, I just jumped right into the special exception, which was on the consent. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
My apologies here.
We're with you.
Thank you for letting me know. Which was already approved. So nonetheless, the site plan incorporates many of these elements here. 5,300 square feet of commercial on the ground floor, 52 residential with 107 on the upper floors. Podium parking, as I just discussed. The proposal indicates a total of 133 spaces in the development. 140 spaces is required. So we're 7 short, but again, the applicant believes that that the uses, in addition to any backstock areas for the retail component of this, would offset each other. The maximum coverage, we're compliant with that. The building height, again, the special exception was granted. The applicant complies with the architectural building materials, sidewalks, and connectivity and landscaping and tree mitigation portions of the code. I do want to point out that the applicant is required to mitigate 6 2-inch caliber trees on the site. Engineering did provide comments related to access. One important note of that is that the ingress and egress on Jackson Avenue, right at the main portion of the development, that's a right in, right out. There is also a emergency ingress and egress that takes access to Thurkfield via an easement, and that's for emergency management purposes only. There is a condition that we have added related to having bollards installed, so that's not creating a conflict of vehicles coming in at multiple points. That needs to be approved prior to permitting with the fire department. Additionally, engineering provided comments related to stormwater management. Staff recommends approval with the 7 conditions. I'm sorry for my confusion there on the
I'm with you now.
special exception.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Questions? On the site plan? Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, is there a motion on case number 3212 for the site plan?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the 7 staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve with the staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? Thanks, sir. Our next case will be case number 3213. Oxford SH Owner LLC has filed a request for 2 parts. A special exception is provided in 3.5.1.2.c, districts permitted, dwellings detached, and B, a special exception from section 2.6.7, traditional neighborhood business district, ground floor residential, for Anderson Road student housing, property located at Anderson Road.
Okay, subject property is about 42 acres on Anderson Road, north of the Heritage intersection. Applicant proposes to construct a student housing development of 243 units in a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms, a combination of detached, attached townhouses, and multifamily styles. Additional space is dedicated to a clubhouse, pavilion, food truck court, and some ground floor retail commercial in one of the multifamily buildings. This parcel wraps around the Metacrest development on 3 sides, though the applicant only proposes to build on the west and the north, and these requests are facilitating the site plan, which is the next case. For the first special exception, which is to allow more than the 25% of 4 bedrooms inside of the NR, the applicant has proposed 210 total units in the NR between the attached and detached units, 88 of which would be 4 bedroom. It's probably more appropriate to consider the development as a whole with the multifamily units in the T and B, with that being another 33 1 and 2 bedroom units proposed, bringing the total unit count for the development to 243 and the percentage of 4 bedroom units coming to 36%. Applicant does make mention of a few nearby developments that have similar, if not considerably higher, rates of 4 and sometimes 5 bedroom units, including the Lark, which is about 66% 4 and 5 bedroom, and College Town, which is about 70% 4 and 5 bedroom. Because of this, the applicant contends that this request would be in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. And staff believes that this is the applicant has achieved a reasonable mix of 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. Should the student housing model become no longer feasible, the layout of the proposed development could relatively easily be changed to conventional rental or condominium model. And with that, staff recommends approval of the requested special exception with the 2 conditions. For the other special exception request is for ground floor residential in the T and B portions. The applicant has proposed 3 multifamily buildings in the T and B, one of which has 767 square feet of ground floor retail. The use of any ground floor residential is a special exception in the T and B. The larger multifamily building is more internal to the site and takes access from the internal parking lot and drives that are shared by the townhouses and detached residential. The 2 smaller multifamily buildings are closer to Anderson and take access just off the main drive. The applicant has also provided space program for a food truck court along Anderson, just west of the main drive, that would integrate with the ground floor retail component of the first of the multifamily buildings. There's an additional roughly 18,000 change square feet of unprogrammed developable frontage on the east side of the main building that is also inside of the TNB. Staff finds this request is reasonable, as the areas requested for ground floor residential are generally off of the frontage and are internal to the site. The applicant has provided some commercial along the main frontage and has not foreclosed on the opportunity for additional commercial at this highly visible location. And as such, staff recommends approval of the requested special exception with the 2 conditions. And the applicant, engineer, and another engineer are all here.
All right. Thank you, sir. Questions from the commission?
I've got one question. Under planning comments, help me understand how I'm supposed to interpret this 2 sentences. The parcel wraps around the Meadowcrest development on 3 sides, though the applicant currently only proposes to build on the west and north. These requests are to facilitate the site plan. Does that mean a year from now we can develop the east side?
They may.
I'm sorry?
They might.
You could.
That's a
Okay.
possibility for sure.
Okay.
Other questions?
Has there been discussion about like a traffic device right there?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 cases on this property, so this is the special exceptions for the 4-bedroom dwellings, and then the special exception for ground floor residential, and then the site plan's up next, and there's signaling in that one.
I guess the question I have with regards to the special exception is the 4 bedrooms. I get that you can rent 4 bedrooms to, 4 guys, 4 girls get together. But I have a harder time, and I guess this is a question to ask. Are there any non-student 4-bedroom rentals in town? I mean, no, I'm not talking about houses, but like complexes. I can't think of any, and that seems like that's a harder rental for a modest family, but that's was a thought that I had. I'm just asking if you know anything.
Maybe I can bridge the gap. Ben, does the city generally discourage 4-bedroom rentals because it's harder to convert them from student housing to single family?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, but to that point, I mean, we think that there can be a good mix. Our code allows for 25%. That's something that we've worked to kind of modify in recent years. I'm going to jump in here. That's okay. We worked to modify in recent years to actually have some more consistency between the different types and things like that. We've worked hard and we went back and forth an awful lot on this, and to try and provide balance within the developments. Prior to, let's just say 2015, 16, and 17, that's all that we saw were 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom, run by the bedrooms. And then we ran into issues with conversions, leasing abilities. And so, based on that, and Vision 2037 took that into consideration and tried to look at, variety. And we believe a healthy mix, if a developer wants to have 4-bedroom units is, about a third of the units. We're within a couple percentage points on the development of, as a whole. We're at, I think, about 35% roughly 4-bedroom units in this development. That's, fairly healthy. Kirk, I don't know how many conventional apartment complexes that we have
Yeah, I don't know.
remaining
Yeah.
today. The Links,
Yes.
the Greens. There's, gosh, I'm trying to think of over off of Highway 6 in South Lamar, down that way.
No, I'm
Anyway,
with you. I'm with you.
I think that, but the point is, there's a handful, and I venture to guess that those are more 3-bedroom, 3-2s, 1s.
Yeah, 3-2, yeah.
In fact, I think we had a conventional one that the commission approved within the last year that there's 0 4s. It's
Yeah.
3s, 2s,
Right.
and 1s.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Did you want to, we could talk about the site plan. I mean, Robert covered a bunch of the site plan.
I don't want to vote on it. We're going to vote on it separately.
But we can discuss them.
out and just talk about it real quick all together.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and run through the site
Rip the
plan.
Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it's all a little piece.
Sorry, I didn't know what the format exactly.
Okay, so same property, proposed mix of units, with the special exception is allowed. Sorry, that is not the right. Yes, okay. Okay, so in our applicant has proposed attached and detached residential of 2, 3s, and 4s. 2 and 3 bedroom units are special use, 4 bedrooms are special exception. T&B applicant has proposed multifamily units with some ground floor residential, which is the other special exception. Density for the A&R portion is allowed to be 9 units an acre, and the applicant has proposed 5.6. T&B allows for 39 bedrooms an acre, where the applicant proposes 10.6. It's a good layout of the parking calculations. In total, 848 spaces are required, and the applicant has provided 852. For height, buildings in NR are limited 38 and no more than 2 stories, and TNB is limited to 40 feet, no more than 3 stories, and all the structures meet these requirements. Landscaping plan is provided that indicates frontage trees, parking lot trees, foundation plantings, and required screenings that all meet LDC standards. And tree mitigation, a sufficient number of trees, especially on the east side of the property that is not currently being developed, are being retained to offset those that are being removed, so that no additional trees are required for replanting. Primary facade materials for these buildings will be fiber cement siding with asphalt shingle gable roofs. And engineering does have comments here related to access, water and sewer, and stormwater management. And we've got 6 conditions for the approval recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Are there any transportation questions?
I got a tree question. So what I understand what your response to Harry's question was, they're wrapping around, so they own the property on the east side for potential future development.
Right.
Yet in this, they don't have to mitigate any trees because they're not currently disturbing that east section. So what happens if, let's say, a year from now, yep, let's keep going, and then how can we go back and mitigate trees over the whole development if?
Well, the good news is that they've got a tree survey for the entire development, and so we've got a record of everything that was retained and is proposed to be removed with this phase. And going forward, if they want to remove any trees and those were counted towards mitigation credits, then we will recalculate for the site as a whole. And if those trees, if they come out to a deficit at that point in time, then they can, either plant on site or
pay in.
pay in. Yeah.
I mean, I expect her to have to be an amendment to this site.
An amendment to the whole site plan. Couldn't just be its own little separate site plan that's connected.
And if they sell it off, it would require a subdivision plat, and so it's gonna
That's
go
right.
before you, and
Yeah.
you would know it.
Okay, that's answers to the questions.
Yeah. It doesn't happen that often.
Yeah,
All right, so we can answer the question on the traffic devices.
I don't know where you're looking at me, that's the engineer.
Not a problem. Yes, sir.
So what is the plan to handle traffic coming out right there
At Heritage.
where it comes into Henderson Road?
So they are currently designing a traffic signal to go at that intersection. So from a four-lane signalized intersection. It's currently a three-way stop. We transitioned it to a three-way stop about a month or so ago, at the request of the law. It's just kind of getting people used to stopping there. But the developer will install the traffic signals as part of the project.
Who pays for the traffic signal? No.
That's developed.
Out of curiosity, will it be, I don't even know if they still make stoplights that don't have the sensor that senses whether there's a car there or not. So we go down Anderson Road at 11, is it gonna make me stop when nobody's around?
Wait 20 minutes, right? No, there will be modern sensors. We're still coordinating with John's office to make sure we're building this not only with the most modern equipment and design, but also in a way that the city can maintain it and, you know, it kind of fits in with their current signalization process in the city. And for what it's worth, not only are we designing a signal that would help control and help the flow of traffic at that intersection, but we're also improving the geometry of the intersection. We're adding some dedicated turn lanes, widening the road, accounting for bike lanes, you know, continuation of the bike lanes that are coming from the east and west on Anderson. So I mean, yeah, not only a signal, we're going beyond that. And yes, these guys have to foot the bill for it.
Excellent. Unrelated, but, so this, obviously this is the string, it's just, I'm looking at these blue dots meandering through. I mean, I guess that's taken into account with the design. I mean, what's gonna happen with the water flow that's coming across the property?
I don't know where exactly you're
I'm just looking at
pointing to,
this,
but I mean, there are, you know, it's typical Lafayette County, Oxford topography, a lot of hills and hollows and several defined drainage ways. Those are all being accounted for kind of the typical fashion of capturing that stormwater, collecting it at a large stormwater detention pond that's at the northwest corner of the site. And of course, that's designed to meet the city's design criteria. You might see, I don't know if it's blue line or the dash line you're talking about.
The blue dash
There's
line,
one
yeah.
kind of to the northeast of Meadowcrest.
Yeah.
That we're actually not disturbing as part of this request tonight. That is in the Corps' jurisdiction, one of the reasons we try to avoid it. And if they ever decide to develop that area, they would have to not only come back to the city for an amended site plan for the previous conversation, but also we'd have to go to the Corps of Engineers for specific permitting.
Yeah.
And actually, we've already gone to the Corps of Engineers to get them to concur with the remainder of the site and the way our consultant that we worked with interpreted that. And ultimately, there were no other jurisdictional waters, not in the Corps of Engineers jurisdiction. So we've been careful to cover our bases with that.
Thank you.
Could you talk about the portion at the front of the property that looks like it's where the food truck elements are going to be for the applicant? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can give a little overview. So clearly, there's a desire to incorporate retail into future developments. We acknowledge this. And what we've done throughout the design process is work closely with Ben and his staff and involve the mayor as well to make sure that we have truly activated retail. That we see cases across the U.S. and other university markets where there are ground floor retail requirements, and oftentimes they just remain completely unoccupied. You see the little graphics packages that they put across the front windows. Some people turn them into lounges, or maybe they'll throw a little gym down there or something for resident use. But we want to avoid that, and so in collaboration with staff, there were some great ideas brought to the table of what's the win-win for the community? How do we actually activate this instead of building 4 walls and putting a for lease sign in front of it? And one of the best ways that we thought we could do that is by basically creating a food truck court, and which will act for weeknight food, Taco Tuesday activation for, for the residents of our property, as well as, others passing along Anderson and Heritage. And then, Saturday morning farmer's market or pop-up food truck activation right there. So that does a couple things for us. It acts as an amenity for our project, which is a unique differentiator for us in the market for our residents to walk up and, grab a smoothie from a truck on Saturday morning or grab tacos on that Tuesday. But it also directly engages, it creates an attainable way for local merchants to come to our site and sell food, as opposed to just creating 4 walls and they have to pay a lease to do it.
Gotcha. And I guess in the sort of entry roundabout, what is the space in the center of that? Because there's a lot of parking at the front. And
Right. So that's our, for lack of better terminology right now, that's our barn amenity. It's meant to, so this was the Harvey Family Farms. There was, barn out there, and this is a little bit of a nod to the heritage of the site, but basically it's going to act as a event space for resident use. So should a Greek organization predominantly occupy the site, or any other students want to rent the space for a birthday party or other activations, it's just a small resident-only event area, but it also anchors the site. We aim to make a place, not just put up housing and put a grid up, as you've seen in our site plan. And this is the first thing you see when you come off the street. We're not there yet on programming. It could serve as overflow on rainy days for food truck events, but that plaza in its entirety will basically be an event space for our residents.
And these elements, the food truck area and this barn space, are fixed elements of the site plan at this point?
Correct. Those are fully incorporated into the plan. They also play off of we have retail frontage there on the ground floor of one of our buildings. So we're in search of a tenant now. We're in some discussions, but we think that there could actually be overlap with how the food truck and that ground floor retail incorporate.
Gotcha. And some of the planning pages include the food court area and others don't. So if you wouldn't mind if we put a condition on the site plan approval that includes that?
Certainly.
Okay. Other question?
Sorry to jump around as far as questions go, but this is more of an engineering. I see the detention pond or detention basin is going to have the outflow going on some other property. There's 2. Looks like there's one north and one southwest. Obviously, that's going to be for an overflow or flooding situation, but I think we lowered the standards a little bit. So, in the event that it does start, we do have an outflow number 1. Where's that water going to go? Is it going to flood those people right there? Is there a hole? Or?
Well, we do have defined emergency overflows on the stormwater detention pond, which is part of the city's requirements. And we try to orient those so that they don't immediately flood downstream property, even during an excessive storm event that may overwhelm the pond and actually trigger that emergency spillway. But we've been careful to try to make sure we minimize the potential for any damage to downstream property owners.
And the question I was going to ask was, I can't tell the topography lines, but there's no way to discharge it onto your own property, was going to be my question. To have the overflow stay on site, essentially?
Eventually it's going to flow downstream. It's sure. Yeah. So we do try to direct it in a way that, as it does make its way off site, it's minimizing potential for damage or problems.
Is the northwest corner, is Is it dropping down?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so that's why I was wondering, like, why isn't the overflow just going right there? Going straight up?
Well, there are several low spots. I think one goes west toward what used to be the hub across Anchorage. Now it's another student housing development. So that one of the primary discharges goes that direction, I believe, and the other goes more to the north.
Topography challenges, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah. Always.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody from the audience would like to speak? All right, if not, we can vote on the two cases. Case number 3213 has two parts. Is there a motion on the special exception for the 4-bedroom dwellings? Is there a question? Okay. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the detached 4-bedroom dwellings.
Second, you made a suggestion about an added condition. Do you want that on the site plan?
Yes. There's a motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. And is there a motion on the special exception for ground floor residential?
I'd move that we grant special exception
There's a motion to approve with staff.
with the two staff conditions.
All right. Is there a second? There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That takes us to the site plan. Could we please add a condition that no building permits will be issued until we confirm that the activated retail elements, including the food truck park, are included? And with that, is there a motion on the site plan?
We approve subject to staff conditions, including the one you just stated.
All right, there's a motion to approve with the listed staff conditions and the one addition. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That brings us to case number 3215. The Crossing at Oxford Commons has filed a request for special exception as provided in section 2.6.9 Suburban Center District, ground floor residential for the Crossing Phase 5, property located at FD Buddy East Parkway. And I think we can go ahead with the site plan on that one as well.
We're doing the special exception first this
We're
time.
doing the special
Got it.
exception.
Sounds great.
Then we're doing the site plan. Yeah.
The subject property for this development, it measures about 59 acres. It's located south of the Heights in Oxford Commons. The property is not in the Oxford Commons Planned Unit Development. The majority of the property is zoned suburban residential. However, there is about 9 acres that are zoned suburban center. Applicant's proposing a single-family detached residential neighborhood consistent with the other phases of the crossing. The proposal indicates 189 residential units that include detached garages. The development takes access from Buddy East Parkway, but it connects to another phase of the crossing just located south of Della Davidson. The development will consist of a residential common interest ownership mechanism. The nature of the request is to allow approximately 43 units to be located in suburban center zoning district. The applicant states that the property is unique due to the fact that there is a small portion of the property that's zoned suburban center, while the majority is zoned suburban residential. In order to create unity between the two zonings, the project intends to construct the same product throughout the entire development. Development connects to Buddy East Parkway as well as the existing Oxford Commons development. Oxford Commons has created numerous non-residential uses along Sisk Avenue and Ed Perry Boulevard and will continue to do so in the future. The developer feels like this small portion of the property zoning was intended for the piece to the south of the proposed development, which has frontage along Buddy East Parkway and University Avenue, and that's true. I mean, a lot of our zoning, as best as we could, we made it parcel based, and so the developers acquired a portion of that adjacent property to the south. Staff recommends approval of the requested special exception with the two conditions listed in your report. And same piece of property, same 59 acres. The applicant has 189 residential units. The parking, so the phase 5 will consist of 44 3-bedrooms and 145 four-bedroom units. There's not a limitation on the quantity of bedrooms in suburban residential. The limiting factor will be the quantity of parking provided, and the proposal indicates a total of 906 parking spots in the development. 4 spaces are provided for each unit, 2 in the garage, 2 parked behind it in the driveway, and there are an additional 150 spaces throughout the development, on-street parking. The proposal complies with our parking requirements. It does comply with our coverage requirements. The buildings are consistent with all the other buildings in the detached buildings in the crossing and compliant with our height requirement. The architecture, sidewalks and connectivity, and landscaping do comply with our requirements. There is, I think the submittal indicated that it did not require any tree mitigation, but we've gone through it, and there were some trees that were to be saved that were actually located off of the property. So what we've identified as a total of 63 2-inch caliber trees are required for mitigation. So that's a requirement prior to permitting. Engineering did provide comments related to access and water and sewer and stormwater management. Staff recommends approval of the site plan for the crossing phase 5 with the 7 conditions in your staff report. And Joey Moore's here if you have questions.
Any questions?
Will there be a need for additional support for traffic? Because I see that's expanding out, and if so, who's going to be responsible for that?
Traffic,
In that area, you know, you're building more houses, it's going to be more school students and walking crosswalks and everything. So
yeah, so there was a master traffic impact study done in 94, but which included this property, even though it's not included in the PUD. So the development on that property was included, which, led to the installation of the traffic signal at Commonwealth Boulevard there at Della Davidson, the roundabouts up at CIS, and even Buddy East Parkway itself as a result of that. So the parkway is designed to handle that traffic. It was designed and built with that in mind to help relieve congestion from University and CISC over there. So I think it's going to be okay. It also connects to the crossing up at Commonwealth too, not to Commonwealth itself, but it connects into that crossing development. So they've got a way to get out the backside to the north if they so choose to go that way. But entering and exiting on Buddy East Parkway, they should be okay.
We're discussing both.
Yeah.
So for the sewer, looks like it says it would be gravity fed, which is normal, but it's gonna be privately owned and maintained. So when they're done, was the HOA gonna maintain that or what?
It'll be the responsibility of the developer, whether he wants to deed that to the HOA or if he wants to keep that. The lift station that actually pumps the sewer will be owned by the city. But all the gravity elements they get to there will be privately owned. Now, the developer will probably take care of that himself. See, this is primarily going to be a student housing development. I doubt there will be an HOA.
I don't think this is student housing development.
Yeah. Oh, it's not?
I don't think so. I think it's consistent with the other phases of the crossing.
Yeah. It will be privately owned, so that will either be the HOA or the developer, however he chooses to do that. HOA.
Are all of those like that up there? Everything that he's done so far is all privately owned until it gets to the lift station?
The other crossing phases are.
It's privately owned until it gets off of the crossing property?
Well, until it gets to the lift station. The lift stations are ours. The lift stations and the force mains are ours.
And so,
That's difficult, not just here, but we do that in a lot of places. It's super private. It gives you an opportunity, when you put the utilities as private, it gives you the opportunity to really, where you save the most money is to be able to do soil cement in the streets. Because the city doesn't allow that over city utilities, because they don't want to be digging through it.
Yeah.
But, and then you can, depending on some other stuff you can do, there's some material savings, but this project's not doing any of that stuff. So basically the savings is have the HOA maintain it, and then, you know, you can save some on some costs on the front end. But we do, I would say, I don't know, 60-70% of the stuff I do is private sewer inside of development.
Joey, on the north side behind the clubhouse and pool, it looks like you've got a nice, some type of pasture back there with a tree stand going all the way up and down that property line from northeast to northwest. Will that be able to remain, or will that be taken out? It'd be page 6.
Let's see here. You talking about along the northern property line?
Yeah.
We're not, so what's the reason why this is designed that way? So running through the central part of the property, kind of on the west, where we got the singular road, all the way down towards the county fire station down in the east, there's a major blue line stream there. So we're not crossing anything on the north side of that ditch. So basically where you see, I just got the sheet 1, where you see our northern line, like right outside of our road, like that's as far as, you know, we're not going very far past that because we've got to stay out of that blue line stream. And, you know, and even down there by the fire station, there's wetlands down there that we're going to have to mitigate that we're in the process of doing right now.
All right, so directly behind the fire station, if you went northwest up that
We're not
dotted line.
touching any of that.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look on 600, it's got our grading plan, and you can kind of see the limits to the north that we're going.
Gotcha.
all right, so this sewer, it's gonna go from just the unit, and then when it gets to the streets are gonna be city owned?
On the interior of the development, they're private.
Private.
Okay, all right.
Until it gets to Buddy East, then it's city.
All
So-
right, that was why I was having trouble.
Sure. So and this has become the typical thing to do now too, is to do private streets, because when you do a private street, you don't need that 50-foot right away. You put the houses up on the street, you can save a little bit of space doing that, and then the HOA will maintain utilities, streets, you know, everything that you're supposed to, you know, detention ponds, all that stuff.
And so this is more of a curiosity, maybe even a legal question, but I mean, so is there certain standards the city can essentially, if they don't, suppose the sewer system, I guess, breaks down, for lack of a better way to put it, and they're saying, we don't have the money to fix it, and then you've got sewer backing up, so who fixes the problem? Does the city, I mean, does the city say, hey, look, you guys have to comply, and like, we're gonna give you a ticket, or what happened, what gives?
I think it becomes a mutiny with the HOA to get them to fix it, and they should be funding, you know, depending on the HOA documents, they should be set aside funding so much every year. So if the sewer needs to be replaced every 15 years or something like that, they have that money. They do the same thing with the asphalt. Part of those Ds is they take 10% of what you pay every month, that goes into a fund, so when they repave the road in 7 years, they've got the money to do it.
There's an entity liable, the HOA would be, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
We don't have an audience anymore.
I know, I didn't mind kind of asking whatever I wanted to ask, because nobody's here. The lift station.
That's the trend with all these new big developments. Everything's going private inside. It's a real decreased cost, capital investment on the front end, because they don't have to build stuff to the city standards. So that, you'll see that on most all of these types of.
But y'all aren't worried about, like, long-term, like, I mean, it was just my understanding that, like, the Wells Gate was sewer system and treatment plant system was all private, and my understanding, nobody wants to touch it. And so, okay, and I guess that's my concern is 20 years down the road, the developer's gone, you know, HOA got what money it has or, you know, whatever's used. I mean, somebody comes in, changes the rules and say, all right, now we only take $100 every time a new person, and you got a bunch of residents that say, oh, you know, sewer and roads and everything are typically taken care of by the city.
We're getting to the politics of it a little bit.
I
So
get it.
what, in the county, what they force us to do is that even though it's a private road, we have to construct it to county specifications. Because they know in 10 years, all the people that are living there are gonna call their supervisors and say, y'all need to take over this road. And they do.
Yeah.
And so that's, do what now? Sorry. But so that's what we've seen in the county. So, I mean, we still have to build all the utilities to spec as far as Department of Health goes. You know, if this was constructed in the county, right outside city limits, you know, that's what we're building it to. It's not like we're trying to cut a bunch of stuff, but you know, the soil cement and the rock here is, I don't know if anybody's ever priced any rock in North Mississippi, but it's outrageous because it's all gotta come from Alabama. So you can, you know, soil cement is a lot more, you know, can give you a lot of savings.
Regarding the lift station, it says it will have to be upgraded. Is that part of the requirement process to finalize?
So, yeah, so the lift station in this development is pumping to the existing lift station and crossing phase 1, which was only designed to handle flows from crossing phase 1. So that lift station will have to be upgraded to handle these additional flows.
That's city's gonna do that, right?
Well, the developer will be responsible.
Yeah, okay. But the city will maintain it?
Yes.
Other questions? All right. Is there a motion on case number 3215 for the special exception for ground floor residential?
I'd make a motion to approve the ground floor residential.
All right. There's a motion to approve. Were there staff conditions?
Sure, whatever the staff.
Okay. If there are staff conditions with those as well. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Special exception is approved. And on case number 3216, is there a motion on the site plan?
Motion to approve, subject to the stated staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve with the conditions. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Thank you, Joey. If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? All right. Adjourn.